I was going through Nairobi Stock Exchange and I wanted to find out what are some of the best performing companies up to now. But I came across this one company. I don't know if it is one of the best performing companies up to date, or it is just I who was curious to find out how the company has been performing. And the company is BAT. So there are those individuals who may be worried. What is BAT? I'm going to give out some kind of an explanation of what PAT does, but in full it stands for British American Tobacco. I used also to believe that it stands for British African Tobacco, but today I really came to my senses, and I from now understand that it is British American Tobacco. So why did it got my attention? I have observed this company trading at 400 shillings. Currently, it is trading 580 shillings per share. And there's need to be good reasons why this company is trading at that share price. After doing my own research, I came to find out that this company is supposed to be giving out the dividends, and it is going to give a total of 60 as a dividend for every share which is owned at PAT. It gave an interim dividend around September of 10 shillings, and now it's going to give out a dividend of around, not of around, but of 60 shillings per share. So I want us to make some calculations. Let's assume you had 1 million Kenyan shillings last year, and the time like this, that is, I'm doing this video on March 14th, 2026. Let's assume you had the same amount last year, the same at the same time, around March 15, around March 14th. You add that amount and you decided to invest in a Nairobi Stock Exchange. How much could you have gained in general? So we are going to do some random calculations. At the same time, I have done some research concerning this company. It is doing phenomenally well. It has been giving out the dividends since 2018. It has never missed giving out the dividends. Currently, the dividend yield of BAT is 12. The PEE ratio of BAT is 11. Earning per share is around 50 shillings per share. So it's a company which has been performing for a long period of time. And this company was actually, the IPO was in 1995. The company itself was established in 1965. So it's a company which has been in the game for a long period of time, and it has a track record. So if you had some amount and you don't want to invest in a risky company, I can advise you to go forward and invest in this company. But before you do that, I am not your financial advisor. You can go and ask your financial advisor, do more research, and then you can decide if it is appropriate company to invest or not. At the same time, if you are interested in this kind of videos, remember to subscribe, like, and also don't forget to share. Now, let's assume you had 1 million Kenyan shillings a time like this last year in 2025, and you decided to go ahead and invest in BAT. How much shares could have you acquired? After we realizing how much shares you could have realized, then we are going to multiply the same amount of shares which you could have acquired at that time with the current price of PAT. At the same time, we are going to multiply the dividend which is supposed to be given out by the same shares which you own. Then we are going to find generally how much you could have made. But at the same time, you need to realize that things may have turned the opposite. You could have ended up losing the same amount, which we are now kind of excited to announce that you could have made a lot of money. It is the same thing. Probably it could have turned upside down, and you could have ended up losing the same amount. So don't be overexcited. Investing in shares is risky, especially if you don't know what you are doing. So you need to press for impact at times. But for now, we need to be excited how much you could have made if you could have invested the same amount last year. So let's do some calculations. So by doing those calculations, there are some figures which you need to find out. First of all, since let's say if you invested the same amount last year, your money could have gained 26%. I did some calculations. The amount which you could have gained up to now, it could have been 21%, which could have been an increase of 121 shillings per share. So we are going to subtract the 508 shillings which you could have accumulated up to now, minus 121 shillings, which is the increase between last year up to now. You could find that every share you could have bought last year could be around 459 shillings per share. So that's the amount which you are going to use. And we generally understand that the commission which you are supposed to pay which is going to be deducted by your broker is around 2%. So that's a figure which you are going to use generally. So let's now divide 459, let's round it to 460 shillings per share, divide by 1 million, and we could find how many shares we could have bought with 1 million Kenyan shillings. So it's 1 million Kenyan shillings. I hope you have a calculator, pen and paper, so that we can go ahead and do some calculations. At the same time, if I may end up making some mistakes, I would like your correction in the comment section. But I believe this is generally how it's supposed to be calculated. So let's go ahead and find the correct figures in terms of shares you could have earned or you could have accumulated by investing 1 million Kenyan shillings at PAT. So it's 1 million divided by 460. So you could have accumulated 2,173 shares. Those are the number of shares which you could have accumulated, 2,173 shares. So as we have said, if we are going to use the 2% as a figure, then we could go ahead and multiply, let's say, 2 million shillings multiply by 2%, we could find the commission which you could have been deducted. It is 2 million divided by 100. So they could have charged you 20,000 Kenyan shillings for you to acquire shares worth 1 million Kenyan shillings. So it's supposed to be 1 million plus the 20,000, so that we could have find, to make it easy, so that we could have find it could have cost you 1,020,000 shillings to acquire 2,173 273. It could have cost you 1,020,000 could have generated you 2,173 shares. As we have said, how much in terms of dividend could have you gained from this amount of shares? I said PAT gave an interim dividend around September of 10 shillings, and they are going to give out a dividend of 60 shillings in this financial year. So it totals up to 70 shillings per share. So we are going to multiply 2,173 times 70, so that we find the general or the total amount of dividends you could have gained from just investing in BAT. So it is supposed to be 2,173 multiplied by 70 to find the total amount of dividend. So it is supposed to be 110 Kenyan shillings. That's the dividend which your 1 million could have generated if you invested in BAT. Now, how much in terms of capital gains could have you gained by just investing in BAT? So we have said the total number of shares which you could have acquired with 1 million Kenyan shillings could have been 2,173. Currently, BAT is selling at 580 shillings per share. So we are going to multiply to find out how much those shares could have been worth if you were to decide to maybe sell abruptly today. So it's supposed to be 2,173 times 580 and 80. So it is 2,173 times 580. So you could have generally your amount which you could have gained from this, it could have been 1,260,340. That's the total amount which you could have gained. So what I'm not sure is, I believe before you are given a dividend by any company which you have invested in, they are supposed to already give out a tax, which is around 30% or 15%. It's around 15%. I am not sure. Maybe it is 35. I'm not sure. So let's assume that before you get your dividend, they could have already given out taxes. And let's assume you are not going to sell your shares, they are going to be intact for the long term. So how much could have you made in total in terms of a profit? So we are going to subtract, let's say it's 1 million, you subtract 1,260,340. So it's supposed to be 1,260,340. You subtract 1 million, you find it is 260,340. Let's add the dividend, the total dividends which would have generated, it's 152, 110. So if you are going to add the total, so you add the total of 152, 110. So the total amount which would have generated in terms of profit is supposed to be 4,112, 450. Let's subtract the 20,000 which you are supposed to give out in terms of commissions. If you subtract 20,000, then the general amount you could have generated by investing 1 million in BAT the same time last year, it could have been 392,450. So that is the general amount which you could have generated by investing 1 million Kenyan shillings in BAT as a company. So I would like your thoughts. Will you go ahead and invest, maybe, let's say, because the dividends has not been given out, that's why I believe the prices are going astronomical. But if the dividends are given out, I believe individuals are going to get rid of these stocks and wait maybe for some time. So if an opportunity arises, are you going to invest in this company? If you have resources, I can advise you wait after the company has given out the dividends. When individuals now are tired of holding these shares, just go ahead and buy. I would like your thoughts in the comment section. Did you get entertained? Have you learned something? If you like this kind of content, remember to subscribe, like, and also don't forget to share. See you in my next one.